There's a hidden cost built into poverty that most people never notice when they look at money from a distance, because financial hardship is rarely caused by one catastrophic mistake and is much more often the result of small repeated penalties that slowly compound over time. A person with financial stability can usually absorb inconvenience without long-term damage, but someone living close to the edge experiences every unexpected expense as a chain reaction, where one problem creates three more and each new cost arrives before the previous one has fully healed. Imagine two people whose lives look almost identical on the surface. They work similar jobs, live in the same city, buy groceries from the same stores, and pay many of the same bills. Yet one person slowly builds savings while the other feels trapped in permanent financial recovery mode. The difference is not always intelligence, discipline, or ambition. Often the difference is simply the size of the buffer between survival and collapse. When money is limited, people are forced to make decisions based on immediacy rather than efficiency. A person with savings buys durable shoes once and wears them for years, while someone without spare cash buys the cheapest pair available, only to replace them repeatedly after they wear out faster. The same pattern appears everywhere across modern life, from transportation and housing to food, healthcare, education, and debt. The poor are often forced into options that appear cheaper in the present but become dramatically more expensive over time. This creates a financial environment where every decision carries friction. Without emergency savings, a minor car repair can become missed workdays. Missed workdays reduce income. Reduced income creates late payment fees. Late payment fees increase stress. Stress affects sleep, attention, and long-term thinking, which then increases the likelihood of future mistakes. Poverty is not simply a lack of money. It becomes a constant state of cognitive pressure where mental energy is consumed by short-term survival calculations. Behavioral economists have studied how scarcity changes human thinking, and the findings are remarkably consistent. When the brain becomes occupied with urgent financial problems, long-term planning capacity decreases. People become more reactive, more impulsive, and more mentally exhausted, not because they suddenly became irrational, but because scarcity itself narrows attention toward immediate threats. The mind prioritizes today's emergency over next year's strategy because survival systems evolved to handle immediate danger first. This is one reason financial stability changes behavior so dramatically. Once a person develops even a modest emergency buffer, decision-making begins to shift. Small setbacks stop becoming disasters. A delayed paycheck no longer creates panic. A broken appliance becomes an inconvenience rather than a crisis. The presence of margin changes the psychological relationship with time itself, because the future becomes something that can finally be planned instead of feared. The mathematics behind this effect are brutal precisely because they look small in isolation. Consider two people facing a $400 emergency expense. One person pays immediately from savings and continues life normally. The other uses a high-interest credit product, misses one payment, accumulates fees, and spends months recovering from what originally appeared to be a temporary problem. The initial event was identical, but the financial consequences diverged because one person had liquidity while the other had vulnerability. Over long periods, these repeated penalties compound into entirely different lives. Higher borrowing costs, lower quality housing, unreliable transportation, limited healthcare access, and constant financial stress gradually create invisible taxes on poverty. Wealth, meanwhile, often reduces costs instead of increasing them. People with higher savings receive lower interest rates, better insurance terms, stronger investment opportunities, and more flexibility during emergencies. Money acts like a system that quietly removes friction from everyday life. Historically, this pattern has existed in nearly every economic system. In industrial cities during the 19th century, poor workers frequently paid more for food and household goods because they lacked the ability to buy in bulk or travel to cheaper markets. During financial crises, those without reserves were often forced to sell assets at the worst possible moments while wealthier individuals could wait for recovery. Economic downturns consistently punish fragility faster than they punish wealth because resilience itself becomes a financial asset. Modern technology has amplified parts of this cycle rather than eliminating it. Subscription services, buy now, pay later systems, instant credit, algorithmic advertising, and frictionless digital spending create environments where short-term relief is constantly offered in exchange for long-term financial pressure. Many systems are designed around reducing the pain of spending in the present while quietly extending repayment into the future. The result is that financial stress becomes normalized, even among people with stable incomes. This is why wealth building often begins with stability rather than aggressive investing. Before investment returns matter, financial systems reward the elimination of fragility. A small emergency fund can prevent cascading fees. Reliable transportation can protect consistent income. Reduced debt obligations can restore psychological bandwidth. These changes may appear modest from the outside, but they alter the structure of everyday decision-making in powerful ways. The uncomfortable truth is that being poor is expensive because instability itself carries recurring costs. Financial pressure charges interest not only on money, but also on time, energy, focus, health, and opportunity. Meanwhile, financial stability creates room for patience, and patience is one of the most powerful economic advantages a person can possess. People often imagine wealth as luxury, status, or visible consumption, yet one of the greatest forms of wealth is simply the ability to absorb uncertainty without personal collapse. The freedom to handle problems calmly, delay gratification strategically, and think years ahead instead of days ahead changes the entire trajectory of a person's life. In many ways, the true dividing line in modern economics is not between rich and poor, but between those who have margin and those who do not.